Good morning, y'all. This is Bud Elliott of the Nolecast, and this is not an instant reaction to the loss to Florida, but this is a general recap of some things, as well as my thoughts on some recent coaching announcements for the Noles. So let's get into this. Thought the defense played pretty hard for the Noles on Saturday night. A little bit disappointing effort overall with some of the run game stuff given up. They got pretty good pass pressure on Lagway at times, and he's just an absolute freak. And if he wasn't a Gator, I think you'd be a lot more excited to watch him. But he's going to be pretty damn special for them, I think. And we saw that when he was a recruit, and he's really damn good. I thought Luke did some good things under a lot of pressure. Obviously, the offensive line has fallen apart as the season has gone on. Basically, every team you play is going to get a ton of pressure on you. It's not all on the O-line. I know some of the backs and tight ends and probably some on the QB as well, but thought he did some decent things. If he could hit that one throw to Malik, that would have been been kind of awesome, but not a game that you expected to win. I predicted 31-13, final 31-11. So, basically it went as we thought it would go. There was some chance you could hold UF's offense down some. There was very little chance you were going to score any points in this game. So with that, I do want to thank our first sponsor, the Legendary Team. Chad does an awesome job, 500-plus Nolecast loans. 844-FSU loan is the number to call, 844-FSU loan. You can also just click the link in the show notes. So make sure that you do that. And I'll be seeing Chad pretty soon, actually, because I believe I owe him dinner because Travis Hunter showed him in the Heisman. So, Chad, you got me. All right, but I am looking forward to dinner. FSU hires Gus Malzahn. I think one of our Patreon guys was on this, asking, hey, could they have a Chip Kelly type thing? So good on you, Patreon member, for that one. Yeah, I think you're going to see this across college football probably more and more with some of the lower-level head coaches or even some of the higher-level head coaches saying, I have made so much money in my career. I mean, what was Malzahn's buyout from Auburn? 20 or 30 million. He obviously made a $5 million a year at UCF. The guy's got enough money. He doesn't want to deal with some of the BS that comes with all that money, and that's why you're paid all that money. But if you don't want to deal with it, you can give up some of the money and make significantly less at your next stop. Mike Norvell and Malzahn are really tight. Their schemes have some similarities. It'll be interesting to see how they mesh some of the things that they want to do. But I think from a core concepts perspective, this kind of makes sense. I don't know if it gets everybody in the fan base super excited. I think if you are super disappointed that they did not get Brennan Marion, I don't really know what to tell you, because I don't think that the differences between a heavy QB run game, heavy run game type scheme that Marion's going to run and what Malzahn probably is going to run, I don't know that the average person would be able to tell you the difference on that. So we talked about in the last show how you probably need, if the goal is to save your job, and I think that's got to be goal one. If I'm Mike Norvell, I'm trying to save my job. Sure, national championships and stuff are great, but I'm not going to BS you that that's coming anytime soon, because I don't think it is. The goal for Norvell and also for Alford, to be clear, because with all the stuff going on, it's pretty important for Norvell to get this turned around for Mike Alford as well, because I don't think Mike Alford would be around to hire another football coach if Norvell goes south. Could be wrong on that, but I don't think I am. Given what you're probably going to have on this roster, given what we think some things are going to cost in the portal, really good pass protecting offensive tackles, probably not going to get those. Not off 2 and 10, not with everybody else now having the house money to throw around. Your money advantage that you've had, and you've had a big one for a couple of years, it's not gone, but it's diminished because now everybody has a certain base level of money they can throw around for this class. Really good receivers, probably not going to get those in the portal. What could you get? You could get some quarterback mobility if you need to. I'll talk about that in a second. You could probably get some pretty decent run blocking offensive linemen. So I thought you needed to hire a guy who was going to emphasize run game, emphasize QB run game, most likely to even out the numbers. Just something that would make some sense there. I liked a couple other guys too as far as candidates, but I don't think that Norvell was going to hire somebody who he just flat out did not know. I personally, I like Jason Beck a lot from New Mexico. I also like your guy at Nevada, who is now cancer free. So anyway, I think that Malzahn is probably a fine hire. I think some boosters were probably more cool with that than some of the other candidates. I'm not saying boosters drove this hire, but obviously, if you're Norvell, making good, making nice with the boosters who are going to have to cut some checks for you those are going to be a pretty important segment of the fan base to please. Obviously, don't know if this will work out. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. UCF's offense this year was kind of hot garbage. And ultimately, there are some real similarities between the UCF team and the FSU team. The big one being that they just whiffed on quarterback in the portal. Okay. UCF took KJ Jefferson. He shows up. All of a sudden, he just really can't throw. And so teams were able to kind of focus in on the run game exclusively. If FSU goes after a transfer quarterback this year, they need to make sure they don't whiff unless it's like a depth piece or just a competition piece. But if they go to add like a real big time QB in the portal, and that represents a good bit of their spend, and that would cost probably $3 million plus, right? Given that the price of this stuff is skyrocketing. It's getting, I don't think it's anywhere close yet, but it's getting closer to like what we're seeing the true value be for these players, especially relative to the coaches. Like quarterbacks should be paid more than a head coach. I think that's fairly obvious, and we'll get there eventually. I'm not in some big rush to have that happen, but like realistically, the quarterback is worth way more than a coach. It just is, because the coach can't play the game, and the impact the coach has it's not nothing, but it's kind of minimal compared to what the players are. A couple questions people have sent in. Has Malzahn lost it? I don't think so. Obviously, a lot of that is dependent on what you think of KJ Jefferson. I do know that UCF staff fairly well, and they're like, yeah, we just whiffed. He did not recapture the magic that he had in 2022 at Arkansas. So that kind of stinks. Malzahn is a recruiter. I think he will be okay. Like he's a name that I think a lot of high school coaches would know. He's a name that some players would know. He's not a bad recruiter. He got kind of dinged for it when Auburn went up against Saban, but he was certainly a better recruiter than like a Brian Harsin who came into Auburn, and that was just that was kind of a disaster. So we'll see how this goes. Does Malzahn mean that you will take a transfer quarterback? I don't necessarily think so. I think Luke showed pretty good mobility in that game. He is a good runner. Malzahn at times has tried to go with a pocket passer. To me, that has been a disaster. I don't really like Gus Malzahn's passing concepts personally. But again, I don't think this is going to be a real pass-heavy team next year. When he has gone with guys like Sean White and those type of dudes who just are not mobile at all, to me, it's been pretty poor. He took a cornerback, literally, and almost won the national championship against the Noles, converted them to quarterback. Now, the guy had played some quarterback in high school. It's not like he had never played, but so mobility from the quarterback position is going to be pretty important for Malzahn. Offensive line coach, not sure. I know there's a couple candidates out there. It'd be interesting to see if he wants to bring his guy from UCF. There are a few other dudes with whom Mike has connections as well. I don't think this is a super attractive coaching job right now, but it's not completely unattractive because you are going to be in a position room where you have some young talent that you can work with, although it needs to be worked with a lot. And you also know that you're likely to have a pretty good pool of NIL money to spend to improve the offensive line. That's going to be one of the main focuses of this offseason in the transfer portal. So overall, could you have done better? Possibly. Could you have done worse? Certainly. I'm kind of fine with the hire. I think you guys kind of know where I am on this. Like the staff is in a bit of like self-preservation mode, obviously, and as they should be. I mean, that's their job. It's somebody else's job to look out for the overall health and future of the program, right? That's not really the charge of the head coach. The head coach is trying to stay employed and win games in the upcoming year. So, yeah, I have no idea if this will work. I'm not going to pretend like I know that it will. I'm not going to pretend like I know that it will not. Okay. You see a lot of weird things happen in this league. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I am not going to endorse nor condemn the hire. I want to see what other pieces they bring in, how they fit, and who else they bring in to be assistant coaches along with them. All right, now I want to tell you about our friends at Congruity. Congruity HR is the absolute spot to go to. Payroll, logistics, HR, whatever you need, analytics, Matt Congruity can get it done. Matt does a fantastic job for us, and we actually have a new email for Matt to hit up. Email matt@congruityhr.com, matt@congruityhr.com. I think we're up to about 10 Nolecast-related businesses who have worked with Matt, so that is fantastic, and super excited to continue working with Matt. Also, a special guest coming back to the pod. Well, not really a guest, just a special thing to tease. Probably, I don't know, later next week. Could be good. FSU getting Tony White, the defensive coordinator from Nebraska. Hello. Had I heard about this? Yeah. Much like the Malzahn thing, I knew Malzahn was a candidate, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days before we did the last recording, which was, Friday? So I knew Malzahn was a candidate on Monday. I don't really, this is kind of behind the scenes stuff, whatever. I know somebody who knows the Malzahn family really well, and basically the response they got back was, we can't talk about it. And I kind of interpret it as like, oh, shoot, there's potentially something here. Normally, if it's just complete BS, somebody will tell, and they'll say, dude, that's not a thing. Okay. So, yeah, I knew Malzahn could be in play. Were they going to wait on Marion? Didn't really make a whole lot of sense to do so if he wasn't already committed behind the scenes, which he was not, at least from my understanding. The Tony White thing I knew about, I don't know, a day before the last recording, I think. Maybe 2. I'm trying to remember. I didn't know that he was like in it, and I don't want to run with stuff if it's just like, half sourced. But when I talked about on the show, hey, you're going to need to get a guy who is going to fit the pieces that you're likely going to have on the roster and the pieces that you're likely to be able to acquire in the transfer portal. I do not think you're going to be able to beef up the defensive line amazingly in the transfer portal this year. You just went 2-10. Other teams have more money now because the house settlement money is coming in. So, yes, you'll still have one of the highest payrolls in the sport. So, competent coaching staff should get good results out of that. But it's not going to be like highest by orders of magnitude over like the 20th or the 30th team, because now everybody has that house money rolling in. What will you have coming back? Probably pretty crappy defensive line. Okay. Given I don't think you've recruited the position well at all. We got a lot of crap on signing day for the past couple of years saying, these guys you're signing, they ain't it, man. That's not the same level of player as the dudes that you narrowly missed out on. So now those chickens will come home to roost. You'll probably be pretty damn good at defensive back still. I think you are going to be okay / somewhat improving at linebacker, maybe. Tony White is going to run a 3-down defense, a lot of confusion. I think he coaches it extremely well. I think Tony White's a hell of a football coach, to be honest. And I think you are very lucky if you're Florida State and Mike had some connections there and that maybe Tony White was looking to get out of Nebraska. I don't know if it's like a relationship with Matt Rule thing, but that's kind of the vibe that I got when I asked around. I was like, okay, why the hell is Tony White available? He was in Arizona State. He was at San Diego State. He really, really good football coach. Aggressive. They are going to also have a lot of confusion. He did a great job at Syracuse, I thought, from 2000 to 2024. To 2022. A couple years at Nebraska. I really think he is one of the better defensive coordinators in the country. And yes, it's going to be a 3-down, which some people don't like, but you know what? A lot of teams run 3-down and they do just fine with it. If you don't have a bunch of really good D linemen, and FSU does not, then it probably makes a lot of sense to do that. So, yeah, he's a Rocky Long disciple. I don't know if you guys know Rocky Long, but I mean, a kind of a legendary D coordinator. Those guys understand their system very well and typically run it pretty well. He's one of them. I just think this is a really really smart hire by Mike, and maybe a lucky hire, to be honest. I did not think that FSU was going to get this caliber of proven defensive coordinator who also has some upside, and also a guy who can recruit pretty well. So, yeah, I was surprised by this. I would give this hire relative to what I think you have and the perception of the program. I would give this like an A triple plus. Does that mean it's going to work? No, because I don't know what kind of like players you're going to have next year. Okay, we don't know who's actually going to hit the portal and who's not. I don't think this staff does either at times, by the way. But as far as proven production with upside, you give me a name you think you could have gotten more. You're not getting the guy from Georgia. Okay, you're probably not going to get the guy from Oregon. Because, like, why? Those programs are on great footing. And I guess FSU's just lucky that maybe not everybody loves working with Matt Rule. So some people really do, obviously. He's got a lot of loyal coaches who have stayed with him for a long time. But, man, that is a good hire. His numbers are strong almost every year. His numbers relative to the talent on the field are really strong. I think FSU fans, I have complained many times that the looks that you get from FSU under Fuller are fairly predictable, and teams seem to have too much comfort on third down, especially in situations in which they should not be all that comfortable, right? Like, why are you super comfortable on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8? Well, because you kind of but with reasonable certainty or just probability, you kind of have a feel for what you're likely to get from that FSU defense. If Tony White can get all this stuff installed in year one, that will change. They do confuse pretty well. They bring pressure from a lot of different areas, and I'm excited to see what he can do. It's not really like the Tony Gibson 3-3-5 at NC State. It's a little different. We can kind of get into some of the scheme stuff a little bit more. Probably bring on some of our Stats Bomb friends and really show you with some of the dots there, maybe some of the film. But I think that's a hell of a hire by Mike. I don't know how many minutes you want me to spend on this. Will he bring his defensive line coach with him? That's kind of the rumor out there. Obviously, Odell Higgins has been at FSU for a long time, has done a tremendous job, awesome career. I mean, I think you'd put his defensive line career as a coach up against really anybody in terms of the development, number of guys who he has sent to the NFL, et cetera. But if you're going to run a 3-down defense, you're not going to have 2 D-line coaches. So if they bring the Nebraska defensive line coach, the writing would be on the wall for perhaps some kind of role change there for Odell if he wanted one. So we will see what they do there. I don't know who else on the defense staff he would want to keep, but if you go get a Tony White, I think he probably gets to call the shots in terms of, for the most part, who else you're going to hire on the defensive side of the ball, because, again, he's not an unproven guy. He's extremely, like, he knows what the hell he's doing. He's a proven guy that has had success at high levels. All right, finally want to talk a little signing day here. Signing day, of course, is tomorrow. I will be on CBS HQ pretty much all day, analyzing, hosting, etc. So that's going to be a long, long day of work for me on the CBS side. And then on Thursday, I fly to Indianapolis to do our Big Ten college ball preview coverage. So a pretty busy work week for us as we have championship weekend coming up. Anyway, if you're not really excited about signing day for the Noles, I don't blame you at all. We got to see if and where Solomon Thomas will flip. I would expect that's probably likely, but we'll see if they can hold on to him. Don't know. Would probably want to be able to inform him. Does FSU have an offensive coordinator at that point? Tavian Wallace, the linebacker out of Georgia, I think is someone who remains in play for sure for the Noles. People have asked, like, who could they flip from UCF? Javen Boggs is a kid for Coco, like, very productive, but also very limited athletically. And he was like an Ohio State guy for a little bit, and I will tell you, like a lot of us recruiting analysts sat around, was like, I get like the numbers. He's been super productive in high school. He probably won't be a bust in college, but he doesn't look and move like an Ohio State kid, right? So he ended up flipping to UCF. Is this somebody FSU should be taking? I don't know. Sure. Like, I don't have a major problem with it. He's not terrible. He's just limited athletically. Like, he's not freaky. So I wouldn't get crazy excited about that. But I think he is somebody who could play early because of how polished he is. Like, that is somebody who could come in and could get some run for you because he does know what he's doing. So, yeah. Could they lose anybody else? Certainly could lose it, like other guys here. This is not a signing day that I would get really excited about. I don't think that. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be a good signing day for the Noles. It's going to be another signing day that sets this program back that you have to overcome. And like, that's whether Mike Norvell is the coach or somebody else is the coach long term. Like, this is not going to be a signing day that makes your program better. It's going to be a signing day that ultimately makes it worse in terms of high school. But obviously, we do think that the Noles are going to, be very, very active in the portal. They kind of have to. We'll see what they're able to do as far as holding on to Kevin Wynn. I don't know how it's going to happen. I kind of don't think they hold on to him, to be honest. But who knows? It's. Some of this stuff is wild. Like, Florida just flipped a kid who committed to Texas on like November 24th. So some of these commitments are lasting a week as teams kind of jockey for position, and also as they try to figure out how they're going to allocate their money between the high school and the transfer market. Do want to make sure I tell you about our friends at Charlie Park. Charlie Park Rooftop Restaurant is the spot to go in Tally, also sister restaurant of Madso and of Township. Charlie Park is it's an awesome experience. Nice outdoor patio. Maybe not today because it's really, really cold, but maybe on some other days it's fantastic for you to get out there, glass of wine, maybe a beer, go for lunch, get reservations, nice little event space there. Anyway, Charlie Park's awesome. Hit it up, Charlie Park Rooftop Restaurant in Tallahassee. We thank them and Matt Thompson, of course, for sponsoring the Nolecast. We can do a breakdown, I think, post-signing day of who we think from this class could help early, who we think FSU should have taken. Maybe there's some kids in this class that I don't think are FSU quality. I'll go over that as well. Is this staff trying to take kids just to look good right now, or should they really be taking some of these kids? I think that's very much up for debate, to be honest. But then again, you can't take a class of 7, I guess. Well, you could, but should you? I don't know. I would not get real excited about some of these late targets that FSU's going after. They don't have a lot of momentum right now. I'm not going to just blow smoke it. So, all right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.